actually have the opportunity to see how Nouns is going to be playing out here, and this is therefore going to be a real opportunity for them to demonstrate that this investment, this creation of a team, is in fact the future for Deadlock Esports.
And those of you at home wondering who these guys might be on the side of Nouns, you might have seen them in the previous Downtown Showdown. They were $6 shrimp special, if I'm getting the price correct on that one. And they're going to be whipping out the Mirage here, as we were talking about on the desk. So the first competitive viability check, we'll say here, for the newest character to grace the battlegrounds here in Deadlock. And I gotta be honest with you, Neriko, I think that this Mirage character is pretty darn good. He's got an ultimate ability that can well, not instantaneously, but after a short channel, teleport you to any player on the map, regardless of where they're at, as long as they're either A, an ally, so you can go anywhere you want as long as you're targeting an ally, whenever you want, or B, if they're an enemy, as long as they are revealed on the map, you have the option to teleport to them, as we see Paradox teleporting in on top of Shiv and landing that first blood. And I think that Nouns have a sick composition, but, I mean, we saw last game just how well it works to just get ahead regardless of composition.
Well, Paradox continues to be a very strong laner during this Downtown Showdown #2, already doubling the farm that the Shiv has. And remember, we're at a point in the meta where no longer can you just boost back to the lane, so these deaths are going to be very significant going forward, Kaizo. Hopefully the Shiv will be able to scale up. Obviously, he's much more of a late-game oriented character. With his dinky shotgun and everything, I actually find him very uncomfortable to play in lane. But we're going to see whether or not he can right the momentum. But to quickly touch upon Mirage, we've already seen hotfix nerfs coming through because he is substantially powerful throughout the entirety of his kit. And not only is it the fact that he has this teleport, which is vexed to me a lot as a Lash player trying to dive bomb him and he just gets right on out of there, but the fact he's able to lane bully with his poison stacks makes him very difficult on all parts of the game to really consistently fight against.
Oh, I agree 100%, and don't forget the fact that he is very slippery, almost in a... I would almost compare it to a pocket sort of way, where he's got a solid amount of mobility, and then he can also immune some bullets some of the time. They have reduced the amount of the time that he can do that, but he does still sometimes completely evade bullets when you try to hit him after using that first ability, that Sandstorm. So we'll keep our eyes on the Mirage, and we'll keep our eyes on the Catgirls as well, who have gotten themselves to about a 2,000 soul leader, so maybe a little bit less depending on the wave-to-wave situation in the map. But it is, once again, this Paradox that is showing up, and it didn't seem like Dugade and Edu were super excited or at least anticipating to see this character, but showing up in a pretty big way so far in these first two games.
Well, someone else who's been making a statement is this Kelvin. Newly nerfed, newly kneecapped, yet still incredibly powerful, able to take this fight inside of the subway. Doesn't quite get the kill there, but with substantial damage and the ability to self-sustain, I imagine that he is going to continue to be a role player here early on in this one, as he is going to take a little bit of a circuitous route around to try to get something against this now pretty low Bebop.
Here we go. Lady Geist, 1 HP over here in the right side of the map. Infernus looking for the kill, kind of getting moved around the pillar here. Just needs a couple more shots to land it. It's a question of whether or not Lady Geist can get the stamina back up, or maybe just turn around the damage.
That was fantastic positioning by the Lady Geist as well. Playing near the heal minion to get that last little bit of life there. And meanwhile, Infernus playing into the enemy wave eventually just had to back off. Mirage might be in trouble now as we transition over to another lane. McGinnis also dashing back to their side of the map. Very difficult to do against the slow beam from the Kelvin, given that she has less stamina than these other characters early on, but still manages to get under the Guardian and to safety for the time being. With the wave pushing in, Kelvin does want to go the roundabout way and maybe find a pick here as Bebop continues to just try to farm and stem the tide.
And taking a look at just the state of the map as it pertains to individual players in their matchups, as we see Infernus on the right-hand side of the map once again looking for this kill on the Lady Geist. That is the most substantial lead that the Catgirls have to offer. 1,200 souls up, give or take, for the Infernus. And across the way, Nouns are up a pretty solid amount in the green lane as well. It's going to be Moen, Krill, and Kelvin now looking for a fight here.
That's a bullet dance early on in this one, picking up a kill. on the side of Catgirl and friends, they're going to be able to knock down not only that Moan Krill, but also the Haze now. So that was a bit of a disaster to try to engage upon that one. And so Nouns Esports are going to continue to lag behind slightly in this laning phase. Again, it's taking a bit of poke damage up top there. Usually that vantage point is really nice to take as that character, but once again, it's that Mirage poke that becomes really vexing and difficult to deal with. And right now, he's looking like the carry in Nouns Esports as we do see the bomb being dropped. Unfortunately, still not enough. That's going to be the Lady Geist blown up, was trying to sustain, just didn't have the capacity with which to do so. Mirage happy to benefit from that lead that we were talking about, now jamming into the tower here.
And that kill's been a long time coming. We might see another one here in the green lane. This was the strongest point for Nouns Esports. They're still trying to push the advantage here, but looks like the clapback is quite strong from the Catgirl and friends, so they will need to back up and try to sustain. And it was just a really unfortunate fight for the Nouns Esports crew because, again, I was just saying how this green lane was their biggest lead, and then the rotation comes over from the Catgirls and really hamstrings what they had going, and now actually a little bit behind in the green lane, meaning that there isn't really a good place on the map for Nouns Esports to try to take a fight or contest some of this farm or look for invades. Both of their side lanes, both of those solo lanes, are now pretty far behind, with Lady Geist only now getting ult, and it looks like Kelvin using one of his own.
That being said, Bebop is worryingly low. Kelvin, with a sustain, still able to perfectly play this, able to position well behind the spectral barrage that the McGinnis fires off, and therefore he will be safe for the time being. Even the Mirage gets out of there using that mobility that you were touching upon earlier. The tornado for escape is quite powerful. Shiv is in a lot of trouble. Even with the heal from the minion, it's not enough, so he's going to be blown up. Still stuck at 3k now. Is actually even behind the Lady Geist on Nouns. So a little bit worried about what that is. Certainly needs to get out of this laning phase, leading much more if he wants a chance at making a game series end pretty quickly. This is not really a place where you're going to be seeing 50-minute matches in the vast majority of the fights that we have throughout the course of this tournament.
Looks like they've sent Mirage over for the Nouns Esports crew to help out against the Paradox in what used to be a solo lane, but will now at least temporarily show up to be a which means advantage to the Catgirls and friends in the middle part of the map, and they're going in on the Paradox here. Get the kill!
And that's showing the other side of the Mirage. Not only can he play out of far with the poison stacks, but he can get in there and work as a burst character. That was both of these fighters hitting their abilities, and it just didn't seem to matter. Moan Krill gonna fire off their ult maybe a little bit early versus that very tanky Viscous, and with the ball, they will be able to get to safety. That being said, Lady Geist and Shiv have both died for Nouns Esports, and that's really where the Moan Krill may have needed to be at that point in the game.
And talking about at least a meta-analysis of the map state here, if you're a Nouns Esports fan, things could certainly be worse for you. If you had to pick a place to be behind, you want it to be on the fringes of the map. And that's where most of their deficit is focused, is around this far left lane and this far right-hand side of the map, which means that the people who traditionally should be showing up to those lanes will have a much more difficult time rotating over, and are isolated for rotation and ganks like this.
Yep, and so being pulled right back in there, unfortunately Shiv is just going to have to accept his fate. That's really showing the power of the Bebop, even if they aren't the most fed member of the team, and they are the most fed member of Catgirls. You have a ton of but now you're at a point where you're online enough to just kind of become a free roaming monster. You don't need somebody to follow up on your abilities, because you yourself can blow up any individual squishy member of the team outside of maybe the Moan Krill, and maybe you gotta be a little bit worried about the Lady Geist health swap.
Yeah, and it's going to be Viscous now isolated here. Will seemingly make it out okay, but things are not looking great for the for the Sapphire team here, as the Amber Walker in the far left side being pushed down here by 3 members. Shiv is nearby, but farming a camp, so won't be showing up anytime soon. And that opens up that half the map a lot for the Catgirls and friends to play around. Once this urn spawns in, they're going to have so much room to play around with if they want to look for an early rotation, and that really is going to be likely the first time that we see a true team fight breakout. It's been a lot of scrappy fighting so far, but I would anticipate our first grouping will come around that point.
Kelvin getting meleeed, taking worryingly low, has the beam trained with the Lady Geist at their back, but unfortunately he's going to have to try to get out of dodge now as the fight persists. Lady Geist now relatively isolated, trying to push up here to follow through on a very deep Mirage play, but unfortunately he too is really deep in enemy territory. May not be able to get out of this one as Lady Geist just gets picked off, and Infernus running them down. A rough play for sure. Nouns Esports has to try to get out of the situation, and with Kelvin taking to the skies at 20 health, unfortunately the burn down is enough to continue to bring advantage over to Catgirls and friends.
So it will be 2 falling, call it almost 3 there. Mirage managing to teleport out with the use of that ultimate if he didn't see where he ended up at. But the pressure is still being laid on heavy by the Catgirls and friends here on this next walker in this middle left-hand side of the map. Mo and Krill gonna go down underneath it to that Bebop beam, and they are not gonna be backing up anytime soon.
We've crested over that 10,000 souls milestone, and at this point, Nouns Esports are going to need a concerted 6-man fight to go their way in order to bring it back in one fell swoop. And while there are potential ways by which you can farm up, play a little bit slowly, and maybe begin to inch back, we've seen Catgirl and friends in tournament after tournament take a lead and turn it into a completely winning scenario here. And so the snowball is beginning to roll just like a viscous, and from that point forward, Kaizo, what do you think we need to see out of Nouns Esports to really try to stabilize here?
Oh man, it's gonna be tough. I mean, they have some decent tools to isolate and assassinate one individual member. I was actually very excited to see the pairing of the Mo and Krill and the Haze in the same lane. I was thinking, you know, you Mo and Krill ult somebody, Haze has excellent single target damage to kill them during the duration of that stun. We didn't get to see that combo in the laning phase, but Haze still has the most farm on her team, almost there toward the most farm in the map, so should at least have the damage to clean up here. And they're not super far behind. They do seem possible to fight back into it, but you gotta be watching out for these side angles.
Oh, no.
As Bebop grabs a pull in on that Haze, there's one fewer tool that they have to defend this walker.
I think at this point, the Haze needs to realize that by becoming the carry of Nouns Esports, they have to be incredibly aware of the fact that Bebop is coming for them time and time again. And we saw right there how much this team is getting off of a pick versus that Haze. Lady Geist is dead again, but at 5k souls, I don't think there's any way that she's going to be seeing a valuable position in this game, as now Catgirl and friends are pushed up enough on these main 2 lanes that they're just going to jam a mid-boss.
And the question is, do the Nouns Esports jump in here and try to contest the Rejuvenator? The scouts are already going out for Catgirl and friends, and it doesn't look like anybody from the Nouns crew will be showing up, so a free mid-boss with no contest to the Sapphire side of the map, and with no walkers left for them to contend with, they're already knocking on the door of these base guardians, and I don't think that objectives are going to be lasting particularly long against them when they've got tools like the McGinnis turrets, they've got the Wraith AoE auto attack rate increase, Infernus excellent single target burn damage. If they get left alone with any of these base guardians, a shrine, a patron, you name it, it is not going to last long. Nouns Esports are going to have to draw a hard line in the sand here, Nyarko, and decide what are we willing to give up and where do we have to stake our claim. I don't think that you want to give up the shrines here. You can't really afford to give over those additional flex slots to Catgirls and friends when they're already probably looking to fill up some of the most critical pieces of their build. But at the same time, it's going to be very challenging when you're this far behind to find a way back in. It's going to have to come from some kind of huge Mo and Krill ult into a Haze ult or some kind of Lady Geist swap. I mean, you're looking at very clearly ultimate abilities required to get you back into this one.
Well, this is a multi-man rundown of the Infernus, definitely one of the biggest focal points for Catgirl and friends, and that shutdown is going to be valuable for the side of Nouns Esports. They finally have a lane that they could try to play in all the way on the far left side, but while that's happening, this is the knock upon the base that you were talking about. Already a Shrine God, and now the question is, can Nouns stake that claim you're talking about? If they keep landing hooks like this, Catgirl and friends could just walk away with this whole damn thing, as Mirage is getting slowly burned down by the Bebop laser, with a member already gone in the form of that Mo and Krill, and Infernus coming back out of the base. Catgirl and friends can keep this offense going. They're going to rotate over to these other lane guardians, and with the shredding power that the McGinnis brings to the table, this could all be over.
And they're going to go ahead and take out these last two in the middle lane here. Only on that left side of the map, that far left side, do they have any base guardians left. And the one shrine, they could potentially push up here while they've got the Rejuvenator, take one more good fight while it's not as punishing if it doesn't go well for them. But it looks like they're willing to play things a little bit more carefully here and go for a regroup. And I gotta tell you, Narco, I really like that call. I think that it's very easy to get swept up in the momentum, to walk too far forward too quickly, try to press the advantage when it's not there, and end up with a situation where Nouns Esports kill 1, 2, 3 people, suddenly have an advantage on their side, and they can start pushing their way back into the map. One good Haze ult could very well change the game if you overextend just a bit too far. So I think this is the right call to back up and then group up on this right-hand side.
Yeah, I don't know how long they have to back up for. Apparently the payday comes early once again, as that Mirage getting picked off means that we once again in a 5v6 scenario where Nouns Esports is really going to struggle to actually defend, given how many waves are jamming into their base. What we've seen out of Catgirl and friends time and time again is a real capacity to play off their waves, leverage that into taking everything across the map to starve Nouns Esports of resources, as well as other teams that have fallen under their wrath. And now Catgirl and friends are in the position that they found themselves in so many times before, able to just besiege and look for any individual picks. Nouns Esports, if a single person walks up, probably are going to just drop this whole game.
And Paradox is hunting for it, won't quite manage to connect with the kinetic carbine. They've got excellent tools between the Paradox and the Bebop to get that one pick that they need to really soften things up and allow them to walk in. Good shot there onto Kelvin, will put some damage out, but doesn't look like they'll get him. The pull in, once again, doesn't seem to get anybody.
That being said, Lady Geist is still going to be picked off by the laser, and now the Haze has been spotted as well. We'll have to try to make it back to the base to heal on up and maybe find that hero you were talking about. Will be denied the opportunity with which to do so, and that means the shrine is going to go down, and I'm sure the patron is soon to follow. With all the artillery fire that Catgirl and friends have on their side, they are going to tear this Elder God asunder, and they are well on their way to claiming a 2-0 start here in DTS2.
Amber Patron still on its last legs here, not quite weakened. They've turned their attentions to this Mo and Krill, who is quite tanky, but seemingly will manage to make it back into his base. They've got about 10 more seconds before they have to finish off the Mo and Krill and move on to the main course. Patron should be dropping any time now.
Yep, there it goes, and Paradox is at the point where they're able to just kind of Lakad Matatag and put so many members of Nouns Esports into base constantly, especially with that kinetic carbine doing as much burst as it currently is. Here's a drop down from the Wraith, another one of these shredders of objectives